Hello, welcome to the library instruction session for COMM-300, Visual Communications, for Professor Davis Barber. I'm John Hickok, the communications librarian, and I'm going to walk you through this handout right here, which will help you do this assignment. So let's quickly give an overview of what your assignment is from Professor Barber. You need to analyze a visual image, which he's going to give you, and you have to have a minimum of 5 sources, like articles, books, websites, etc. So two of them have to be scholarly sources. So that's going to be a journal article, a book, or an encyclopedia entry. Two of them can be casual, non-scholarly sources. That's like a website you come to, or a magazine, or a newspaper, or a movie. But two maximum though, no more from non-scholarly. You can also, one other one can be, it doesn't have to be, but it can be from Canvas or class material, or it can be a personal interview. But it has to be a relevant person to the image. You can't just ask your friend, like, oh, hey, what do you think of this? No, that won't count. It has to be somebody relevant. Like if you're doing one of the historic photos from like the 1950s and your grandpa was alive then, you could interview him because he lived through that time. So that would be irrelevant to that image. By the way, this handout teaches you to find all these sources with your own brain. Okay, you're finding and using your own brain to find these. If you use AI, Professor Barber has accepts some AI. You can, but you're going to learn a lot less because if you don't do stuff for yourself, you don't learn how to do stuff for yourself. So if you do use any AI, you have to state that, as Professor Barber has already advised you. Um, yeah, but you use it your own brain, you're going to learn a lot more. Okay, so what's the structure of the paper? This is the structure, intro. Then you have your 6 perspectives that you have to write on. These personal, historical, technical, ethical, cultural, critical. You have to discuss all these different perspectives about your image. Right, that's what I'm going to show you in this handout. How to find sources to write on all these different perspectives right here. Okay. Now, to find your sources, you can use two things. You can use the internet and you can use the library. Yeah, both are okay. So let me talk about both of these. First, about using the internet. Yeah, sure. You can find stuff off the internet. Google, of course, is the largest search engine, so that's very valuable finding information on the internet. Now, if you're going to use Google, consider using Google Advanced. Yeah, Google Advanced. A lot of people don't know about Google Advanced. Now, it's still the same Google. Yeah, it's still the same Google. It just gives you more search filters. Here's Google Advanced, and this is what it looks like right here. Okay, it's multiple boxes instead of just one box and different filters. So consider using that because that could help you find stuff more precisely and more and faster than just sloshing through 50,000 different results off of a regular Google search. Let me give you an example. Suppose suppose this was your photo. This was actually a photo from a previous year in COMM-300. This is from Hurricane Dorian in 2019. It unearthed coffins in the cemeteries in the Caribbean and Florida area where the hurricane hit. So this photojournalist, Ramon Espinosa, he took a photo of that. Okay, and so you want to find some source discussing about this. Okay, so you could go into Google Advanced and you could type some keywords. Okay, keywords like Hurricane Dorian, and then some keywords like coffins and photos. Okay, when you do that, it will bring up results like this one. It brought up Paul Moakley, 2019, Everything Was Broken from Time Magazine. And there's the address where the article is from. Yeah, that's legit. Time Magazine is a legit news organization. And so that will count as one of your non-scholarly, because it's just a magazine. It's not a scholarly journal, but it still counts as one of your sources, one of your non-scholarly. Now, I got to give you a warning. When you do Google searches and find stuff from the internet, yeah, warning, you got to critically evaluate whatever web results you get. They got to be legit. Blogs, social media, some sketchy website, like, something like I like spookyphotos.com or something silly like that. No, that's not acceptable. That's not a legit source because you don't know who is behind that. The blog or social media is just going to be somebody's opinion or this website is going to be who knows who made it. It's not credible. It's not legit. So don't use it. It's not going to be an acceptable source. Okay. But Time Magazine, yeah, of course, that's legit. So you could use it. Okay, so that's it. That's how you can find stuff using the internet, use Google. Now, what about finding sources from our library? Yeah, that's what I'm going to teach you next. So one of the things you can get from our library is books and ebooks. Okay. Now, don't expect the library to have an entire book or ebook on your exact image. No, we don't. We don't have a book on every single image. Here's another example. What about the golden arches, the McDonald's golden arches, if you were analyzing that image? No, we don't have a book solely all about just the McDonald's golden arches. However, we do have a lot of books that comment on the golden arches in general, like advertising books or marketing design books. Okay. So yeah, to find books or ebooks in the library, you're going to use the library's OneSearch catalog. So this is the library's homepage. And right here is OneSearch, where you can look up and find books and ebooks. Now, they give you, OneSearch gives you a little baby search box right here, a single little box. Nah, don't use that. Don't use the single little box. It's not so powerful. Instead, use to the right of it, click the advanced search. Right here, it says advanced search. The advanced search page looks like this. You can set the circle at the top to books and ebooks right here, and then you can search for books. Okay, let me give you an example of how this would work. Here's an image. Now, it's not this semester, but in other years, this has been an image. This is a famous image from protesting in 1967, protesting soldiers for the Vietnam War. Okay, so this is the name of that photo. Okay, now, there is no book solely on just this photo. So you got to think broader. What keywords could you type to find some books related to this photo? Okay, you could type Vietnam, protests, and Pentagon. Okay, those are three keywords you could type to bring up. Yeah, it does. It brings up several books, like this one. Out Now, A Participant's Guide to American Movement Against the Vietnam War. That book does discuss the 1967 Pentagon protests, including this protest. And so you could quote that book talking all about the historical perspective or the cultural perspective of this image. And see, that would count as one of your scholarly two sources because it's from a scholarly book. Okay, you get it? That's how you can use OneSearch to find books. Okay, here's another example. What if you were analyzing a food ad stereotyping housewives from the 1960s, like this one right here? Okay, do we have a book specifically about this food ad right here? No, not specifically about that ad. So you got to think broader. What keywords would you use? Well, how about these keywords? Women, advertising, United States, and history. So I could type those keywords right here in my search box. And it does. It brings up a lot of books related to that kind of stereotypical ads. Like this one, Food is Love, Advertising, Gender Roles in Modern America. That's an ebook that we have. Or this one, Housework and Housewives in Modern America, Married to the Mop. That's another book that we have in the library discussing these kinds of ads. Okay? So that's another example of how you can use OneSearch to find books related to your image. Okay, let's go on. How about finding scholarly articles? Not books. We're done with books. Let's talk about finding scholarly articles. How do you find scholarly articles related to your image? Okay, well, there's two options. Option number one and option number two. Let's talk about each one. Option number one is just to use OneSearch again. Yeah, you already got familiar with OneSearch here to look up books. Exactly. Although OneSearch is mostly used for finding books and ebooks, you can also use it to search for journal articles too. Yeah. So at the advanced search again, this time set your circle at the top to articles. Okay, we're going to switch it and set it to articles. Okay, then you can type your keywords again, what you're looking for. So OneSearch searches all the library's databases all at once. Okay, so we have individual databases, which is what I'm going to talk about next, individual databases, specific databases. But OneSearch searches all of those databases all at once. Here's a good analogy. Think of OneSearch like Walmart. Walmart has search is all kinds of products. You can go Walmart and get what food and diapers and tires and phones. You can get all kinds of stuff in Walmart. Okay. Whereas See's Candy only specializes in only one thing. You go into a See's Candy store just for candy. All right. That's the difference. One search is like Walmart. It searches all the databases at once. And so it'll pull up articles that way. If you go to a specific database, like the communication database or the history database or the performing arts database, then it will just pull up articles from those majors, just in history journal articles or just in communications journal articles. Okay, let's do an example of OneSearch. Okay, we're going to use OneSearch again. Here's an example. Okay, we're going to analyze something. It's not necessarily some famous political event like the Vietnam War. What if it's just a routine photo or image in life? Like this one, this 1963 AP photo of Ringling Brothers Circus arriving in town in New York. See this photo? Pretty cool photo from 1963. Okay, are you going to find scholarly articles commenting on this exact photo? Nah, maybe not. Maybe not about this exact photo. So once again, you got to think broader. Are there articles commenting on the use of elephants in circuses in history journals, or maybe sociology journals, or maybe performing arts journals? Yes, there are. So you're going to type in your keywords right here in the search box: circus, elephant, and culture. Circus, elephant, culture. Those are three good keywords. If you do, up comes a whole bunch of articles. Many articles come up, such as this one. Okay, this 1999 article, The Big Attraction, The Circus Elephant and American Culture, from the Journal of American Culture. Perfect. Now, they're not talking in the article, they're not talking about this exact article of the elephant stepping out of the train, but they are talking about elephants in American culture of circuses in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. That will count as one of your scholarly sources, one of your at least two scholarly sources. Okay, so that's using OneSearch to find a scholarly article. Now, how about using a specific database? Yeah, you can. The library has specific databases that you can go to. Okay, it's not OneSearch, which is all the databases. It's a specific database, like, for example, the history database. That just contains history articles or in history journals. Or you can go to the sociology database that just contains sociology articles in sociology journals. Or the art database. It's just articles in art journals in the art database, and so on. Okay, so you can go to a specific database at the library's homepage by clicking databases right here. You're going to click that. Okay, it's not going to take you to OneSearch. It's going to click you to a specific database, and it's going to look the same as this. It's going to give you search boxes. That's right. The databases work the same way as OneSearch or the same way as Google Advanced. It'll give you search boxes. In the search boxes, you will type your keywords. Okay, so let's do an example. Suppose you want to analyze this famous World War II Times Square sailor kiss photo. This one right here, very famous photo after World War II. Since this is historic, you could try Academic Search Premier database. Okay, that's a database that's got lots of historic articles. Or you could try America History and Life database. That's a history database. All right, so in these databases, here's the kind of combination of keywords that you could try. You could type Times, Square, and Kiss. Those would be your three keywords: Times, Square, Kiss. Oh, that's great. That brings up a lot of articles. Like here's two examples. The Times Square Kiss, Iconic Photography and Civic Renewal from the Journal of American History. Or here's another one by J. Jackson. The Kissing Sailor, the mystery behind the photo that ended World War II from the Naval College War Review Journal. Okay, see, there's two examples of articles, journal articles that you found. So they are going to be discussing this whole phenomena about the the soldier coming home from the war and kissing the girl, and that will count as again one of your scholarly sources because it's from a journal article. Okay. Now, what about encyclopedias? Yeah, encyclopedia entries, that also counts as a scholar one. We do have two excellent encyclopedia databases. And these are better than Wikipedia because they're written by actual scholars, not just anonymous mystery persons like Wikipedia. So Wikipedia won't count as a source. But these will. Gale E Encyclopedia database and Oxford database. So the Gale eBooks database is all of our e-encyclopedias. You could click on any one of these and it would pull up an article from I mean it would pull up a encyclopedia entry that you could use. Okay, now how about some other ones here? I'm going to now give you some actual breakdown, samples of how you would, where you would go to do your different perspectives. Okay, so let's start with number two. The personal one you can do yourself. Okay, personal, I mean historical. So this is where you're going to discuss the background of the historical context of your image. So what if you, for example, were using the his famous Ansel Adams photo of Yosemite Half Dome Mountain, this one right here. Very famous photo. Well, all of the different sources I just told you about for the last 10 minutes, yes, you could use any one of these. You could go to ebooks, type Yosemite and Half Dome in one search to find some books in ebooks. Encyclopedia, yeah, you could go to Gale ebooks and get an encyclopedia entry about Half Dome. Articles, you could go to the art database. The name of the art database is called Art Full Text. And then look up an art article about the photograph. You could go to a website that's non-scholarly, but it would count as one of your sources, and type in the keywords Ansel Adams Half Dome and get a lot of websites come up. So that and you can get talk about your historical perspective. How about the technical perspective? This is where you're going to give the uh, technical considerations of your photo, like what kind of photos was photograph, or film, and camera was used, and also the aesthetic critique of the artistic or technical considerations. Like for example, if you chose this famous photo of boxer Muhammad Ali standing over his opponent. Okay, now you may not find any books or articles technically critiquing this exact photo. So once again, we're going to think broader. Does the library have any books critiquing photos or art in general, like, the angle or lighting considerations of photos? Yes, we do have books like that. Okay. Because the lighting and angle of this photo make Muhammad Ali appear very dramatically imposing in this photo. So yes, the library has technical photo critique books. So you can go into one search, type some keywords. Photography practice could be your keywords. And various books come up, like this one, Reframing Photography Theory and Practice. That's a book that we have that's all about how to analyze photos. Okay, or you could do a website, that would be a non-scholarly one. Google some keywords like Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, that was his opponent, by the way. Photo and perspective, it would be keywords. And then, yeah, several sites come up analyzing it, like this photography website. Okay, how about the ethical perspective? Yeah, this is where you discuss the ethical perspectives of your image. For example, remember back on our Hurricane Dorian coffin photo, you may want to discuss if it was ethical for photojournalist Ramon Espinosa to photograph disturbed graves. Or was that disrespectful to the dead and the family, and he shouldn't have taken those photos? Okay, so if you wanted to find some books or ebooks about photojournalism and death, about coffins or taking photos of death, yeah, you could type those two keywords, photojournalism and death, and that would bring up some books like this book, Death Makes the News: How Media Censor and Display the Dead. And that talks all about photojournalism, photos, and things related to death. Okay. Or if you wanted to find some articles, go into the communication database called Communication Source. Type some keywords: photojournalism, and dead. Okay, and it'll bring up different articles like this one, Covering the Dead from Journalism Studies Journal. Okay. How about cultural perspective? This is where you're going to discuss the symbols or culture related to your image. So, for example, this iconic photo of Marilyn Monroe, what is the cultural perspective? Did it represent America's fascination with celebrities, or did it represent the changing morals? Because this dress is kind of skimpy, and that would never have been allowed 100 years ago to be printed in a newspaper. Or what? So, for example, you could consult several different library resources by typing in keywords like Marilyn Monroe, sex symbol, changing morals, and it'll bring up a lot of things. Like in one search, this book, Stars, Fans, and Consumption in the 1950s, or this article. We go to the history database, America and Life, and brings up some articles. Or this website, we'll type in keywords Marilyn Monroe, photo, sidewalk, dress, and culture as my keywords. And several sites come up, like this one from a newspaper article talking all about Marilyn Monroe and this exact photo. Okay, so lots of different ways you can find articles uh, on your image. Finally, I want to point out that you need to cite or reference or give credit to your sources when you create your report. Now, in the body of your writing, you have to cite or quote or mention your sources. Any one of these bullets is acceptable. You could say, if you found a source by Hernandez in 2003, like a newspaper or a journal article or a book, you could say Hernandez 2003 reported that blah, 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 blah. Or you could say a 2003 study, Hernandez shows that blah, 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 blah. Or you could say in 2003, Hernandez wrote blah, 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 blah. So any one of these is fine. You just have to say one of those ways in the body of your writing when you're citing or mentioning your source. Then at the end of your paper, you list your 5 or 6 or 7 sources at the end. Okay, this is called your bibliography or your works cited page or your references page. People call it different things, but it means the same. It's all your sources at the end of your paper. Now, you can't just list them any way you feel like it. You can't just rattle them off. You have to list them in this pattern or this formula or this model. So for a journal or magazine article, you list it like this. Okay, or here's another example like this. For a newspaper story, you list them like this. Or for a book, you list it like this. This is the proper pattern or model that you list it. Okay, so just use this pattern. Look at here and then take your journal article and make sure it's the same way. Like, for example, last name, comma, first initial, then the year, then the title of the article, and then in italics, the name of the journal or the magazine. Okay, that's it. That's the pattern or that's the model of how you model or pattern your sources just like these. Okay? If you do that, then you have it in correct APA format. Okay, everybody, that's it. Well, good luck, and I hope you find some really good sources when you're analyzing your image. Good luck.